Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of B6 and Beyond, where we speak about everything Aston Villa and beyond. Obviously, you know me. My name's Ben. Cory, I'm sure you know Cory by now. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm not bad, Ben. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. So before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone we have got an ongoing competition for a football shirt. That, you know, this isn't just a competition open to Aston Villa fans. How you enter it, head over to our TikTok channel, make sure to drop us a follow on there, and make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and you'll automatically be entered. We've got until Friday to enter, so don't miss out. So, shall we kick it off and get straight into it?
Let's go for it.
So the first thing we want to talk about today is from B6. It would be rude not to start with B6, as we are B6 and Beyond, and just have a bit of a review and catch up of how pre-season has gone. And I think it is very imperative for us to start with talking about Aston Villa's key performers during this pre-season. And I don't want to go into the first teamers so far because I think that would be unfair and not to give these boys their flowers. I want to start off with George Hemmings.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest. I didn't have a clue he was before pre-season. I'm not going to stand here and say I know a lot about sort of like the youth team. Obviously, we've seen a couple of players. There's one player we're going to mention shortly who has obviously been a star for the under-18s last season, who I know a lot about. But Hemmings, he's sort of come out of nowhere for me personally. But from what I've seen, he's been really impressive. Obviously, we've spoke numerous times about Boubacar Kamara and how important it is to have a player in that role that does a certain job. And obviously, I'm not saying that Hemmings is up to that level yet, but there's definitely potential there for potentially a long-term partner for Boubacar Kamara as well. Ben, I don't know about your thoughts.
Yeah, I was so impressed with him, especially in the game against Marseille. I thought going into especially more so because of the hostile atmosphere as well. That game was very, very on the edge, pretty much all the game. You know, very feisty, and he really did hold his own in the centre of the park. I was so impressed with him. You know, at 18 years old to play like that in senior men's football, friendly or not, he clearly has got a lot of ability. So I hope we see a bit more of him this season, because for me, and again, I don't want to be this podcast to become an anti Ross Barkley podcast, because that's not what I intend. But I would rather see minutes in the young man's legs rather than someone like Barkley who's coming to the end of his tether. Because ultimately, the future of Aston Villa and is that boy. If we can get him developed to the level that we need to, he's either one going to be a PSR sale, which is as sad as it sounds, but sadly that's kind of how the system's built right now, or he's going to be a player that's going to come straight into our first team, another one like Jacob Ramsey from the academy, and it's going to be low cost, and we're going to see the benefits of it ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me personally, I completely agree. We need to have him having minutes, whether that's for us straight away, or potentially a 6-month loan goes into the Championship. If he can get a Championship loan straight away, that's brilliant. Obviously, lowest you'd want to see him is League One personally. I just think no discredit to sort of League Two football, but we need to be seeing him sort of at a decent standard. And if he can do well, let's say he gets a Championship loan and he does well for 6 months, we could potentially see Ross Barkley offloaded in January for a fee. And then obviously you've got that young man coming in to fill those boots.
Oh, he's got too much ability for the for League One, in my opinion. Just from what I've seen already. The one thing I want to say about George Hemmings, not directly to him, but thank you Nottingham Forest, because we have taken an absolute baller off your hands. Yeah. So obviously the next one is Jimo Aloba. I have been so impressed with him. He looks a bit weak at the moment, which you'd expect for a young lad, but he has got so much ability. In that Villarreal game, I was very, very impressed with him. His ball carrying ability, I'll be honest, can't say I watched much of the youth sides, but I was so impressed with how much he was picking the ball up, and he was dancing past the Villarreal first team players like there were nobodies. That performance alone was brilliant. Could we see him feature more this season?
I definitely think so. I think you've hit the nail on the head. The teams like Villarreal were going to be up against those sort of calibre of teams in Europa. I'm not sure. I think are Villarreal in Europa League this year? I could be wrong.
I'll have to double check that. I would imagine so. I'd like to think there'd be a method to the madness as to why we played Marseille and Villarreal.
But again, it's those are the sort of calibre of teams that we're going to be playing against. And like you say, he's made veterans of the game look silly. He was dancing past players. The thing I love about him as well is that confidence of once he's beaten a player to take it inside and get shots off. He's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to have the likes of Watkins and Buendia shouting at him, people who are a bit more experienced. He doesn't mind that, and I think especially under the right wing of people like Morgan Rogers, being able to watch him week in, week out, Jacob Ramsey, who potentially could be having a season for us this year, that's the sort of thing where if we can get him playing in Europe against those sort of teams, he offers something different. Like you say, I've seen a few clips of him for the under-18s. I saw a goal that he scored against Man City in the final, which was very similar to some of the runs he made against Villarreal, taking on a couple players and smashing it into the corner. But wow, he's been just the composure, like you say, similar to George Hemmings. Just the fact they're coming into men's football, the games they've played, and they've played against almost full strength teams. Some of these teams, Villarreal, Marseille, teams like that, and they've just picked up the ball and took it on. They don't care about anything else. They're happy to go run with the ball, and that's what we want to see.
Oh, 100%. Let's not just to clarify. Yes, Villarreal, they will be in Europe, and they are in the Europa League where we played at. And to be honest with you, with the performances that we've shown against Roma, just to touch on 4-0, I was at that game for the Villarreal win. And realistically, as much as people are digging out the online, the little rats online saying that the Marseille result was a bad result, Marseille played pretty much a full strength side. Villa were nowhere near full strength, and to be fair, for the majority of the game, we more than held our own. I'm pretty confident if we went into a two-legged tie against Marseille with our full team, we would definitely more than hold our own, and I'm pretty sure over two legs, especially bringing them back to Villa Park, we would bop them.
I definitely, and I think I didn't get to watch the Marseille game, unfortunately, but from what I heard, obviously, tensions were quite high. We've seen, obviously, the Mings incident and things like that. But again, it's pre-season. We're not going to want to be going into challenges, that sort of thing. So, yes, we did lose 3-1, but again, like you say, if it's a Europa League game, we're more than happy to go into those challenges. We're more than happy to smash some teams, and that's what we'll do. We've got players in that team who are ready to fight. You've got your Mings who's ready to fight. You've got Konza running over to fight. And Nana's going to scrap for everything. And that's the thing, when it becomes a competition, Villa will be ready. When it's a friendly, there's no point trying to go into challenges and risking an injury. It's pointless.
It was very tasty, put it very bluntly. The next one we should talk about, and I'll give you a little piece on him just to... I am very much a pessimistic person. Emi Buendia, I'm going to get into now. And I can't be the only Villa fan that thought this. When I was at the Walsall game, when he wrapped that free kick into the top corner, I said straight away, this is either going into the stands or hitting the wall. I had no confidence in him scoring that. And the fact that he just whipped it in, it made me look like an idiot. Probably made a lot of other Villa fans look an idiot. And then, literally, funny enough, I'll tell the story. I messaged Cory a little bit before
bring up the receipts here.
Yeah, just literally before the goal that he scored against Villarreal, saying, well, not hammering him as such, but I weren't confident. And I'll still remain very pessimistic, and I'm not 100% sold that he is back, but he's showing signs. He is showing signs that he could get back to the Buendia before his injury, the Buendia pre-season before his ACL injury. I'm not sold yet. But hopefully he does get there, because ultimately all that I want, like any other Aston Villa fan, is the Villa players getting the maximum out of the players that we've got. And if Buendia is that player, then I'm more than happy for it. But at the moment, I'm not 100% convinced.
Definitely, I've got the messages here. Actually, it was I'm going to sound controversial, but Buendia and Bailey simply have to go. And then what a player Buendia is! Big season ahead with the eyes emoji.
I'll stand by it.
No,
at the moment.
At the end of the day, I completely agree. I think at the start of pre-season, I was the same. If getting money for Buendia seemed a massive thing for me, getting him off the books. I think, obviously, that injury... Don't get me wrong, before the injury, he was decent. He wasn't anything sort of special. He's always had good pre-seasons for us. Every pre-season, he's been brilliant. We've seen it before. I think, unfortunately, that Newcastle... the ACL just before the Newcastle game a couple seasons ago, we lost 5-1. That ruined him for that
season.
Killed
him, didn't it?
He didn't play that whole season. I think that was his second season with us, and I think that's where we were probably going to see that sort of peak. And we thought, as Villa fans, listen, it's not going to happen. We were happy with that. Obviously, Leverkusen came in, and you're thinking, okay, if he gets a good performance for Leverkusen, they've got the money to pay for him. We can get him off the books. But as you say, I mean, it's a brilliant free kick. It's great technique. The goal against Villarreal, really well taken.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of Villa fans will probably say the same. We knew he was going to shoot. He was lining it up, and you're thinking, just hit the target at least, please. Just do something. But yeah, I mean, he surprised a lot of us. That's one thing you can say. I'm the same as you. I'm not completely sold. I do think that if we can offload Leon Bailey potentially, I'm more than happy to have Buendia around for that sort of Europa League games and cup games, just almost acting as the Asensio for this year. I do think his performances are obviously going to have to be the same level as it has been pre-season all season round if he is to stay for another couple of years after. But listen, like you say, whilst he's wearing a Villa top, I just want the best from him, and this pre-season he's shown that, and fair play to him.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the next one we should talk about. There's two first team players, and the first one for me is Ollie Watkins. That guy is going into the season in red hot form, and if I had to put my money on anything for the first game of the season, he's going to score against Newcastle United. I am pretty confident of it. He loves a goal against Newcastle as well. I am confident he scores 5 goals in pre-season, and his heading ability. He's scored 2 or 3 headers, isn't he, in pre-season?
Yeah.
I know, he scored the one against Villarreal. He scored the one against Villarreal weren't a header, was it? That was on the floor, wasn't it? He scored one against Frankfurt. He scored the one against the American side as well, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The main point is he scored 5 goals in pre-season, and ultimately, what a lot of people aren't giving Ollie Watkins credit for is last season he went into the season, and it was his first ever season where he went into it cold, basically. He went in after an international break, and he was never used to that. Whereas this season he's going in with a full pre-season, fully up to speed. I think he's going to hit the ground running, and I am convinced this is the season he breaks the 20-goal mark for Aston Villa in the Premier League. I'm convinced.
I think you've just got to say credit where credit's due. He pulled out of that England squad for the friendlies. Listen, if there's one thing we know about Ollie Watkins, he always, whenever he's talking about his interviews, he's always so proud to put on an England shirt, and so he should be. He's worked hard to get to that position, and no one could take that away from him. So for him to miss, even though it's friendlies, for him to miss out on those games was probably a big call, but he took that on the chin. He missed out on those games. He's got himself an actual sort of pre-season where he came back a few weeks late because he had that injury, where I think he's had an injury for a couple of seasons. I think most Villa fans know this. He's never really had the chance to sort of wear it off. I think last season when Duran was scoring goals, he probably forced himself to come back earlier because he didn't want to lose his spot in Villa. And ultimately, I mean, he's a true professional, Ollie Watkins, but as you say, listen, I know it's pre-season, but as a striker to get 5 goals in the 5 games, and even the interviews after the game, he's saying he's ready to attack this season. And it's like a new Ollie Watkins we've got here. He's angry, he's ready to go, and that's what we want. There's no competition for him this year either, really. Obviously, we'll get on to him shortly, Evan Gasson, but is he going to be playing as a striker? We don't know that yet. Marlon's obviously had a good pre-season as well. Is Marlon going to be playing as a striker? Probably not. He's tends to be playing off the rock. So Watkins has got free rein this season to really attack it, and as you say, I think we could see the season where he breaks that 20-goal mark, yeah.
You've just named the next one I wanted to talk about. Daniel Marlon. I think he's had a really good pre-season. Multiple assists, looks sharp, looks hungry. I think we're going to see a lot from Daniel Marlon this season. Where he fits in, I'm not 100% sure, especially with the signing of Evan Gasson. I am just quite happy at the moment with the options we've got in the forward areas. Obviously, we've got Gasson, Ramsey, Bailey currently. John McGinn can also fill in there. Daniel Marlon can play there. We've got a lot of options, I feel, going into the season. I still feel one is going to go. But where do you see Marlon fitting? So for me, I would guess off the right wing. But then, like I say, with the Gasson signing, I'm lost.
For me personally, I think Gasson will be off the bench to begin with. We know with Unai Emery, especially the younger players, he likes to sort of ease them in slowly. He did similar with Morgan Rogers. He didn't chuck Morgan Rogers straight into the first team. He took a couple of games, sort of bring him off the bench to get him used to the Villa team. I think, obviously, for me, it's between. If it was my choice, it'd be between Marlon and Buendia, who starts off the right. I know Buendia off the right's not as decent pace-wise, but obviously just the way he's performed, he's sort of earned that sort of spot to have a chance of playing. The only thing I worry about is Unai Emery going to start Leon Bailey still, just because it's Leon Bailey's natural position. Personally,
Gives you balance, doesn't he, Bailey?
yeah, that's the thing. Bailey
likes
does
that.
give you the balance there. I think Marlon's a brilliant player, but I think Marlon's better coming slightly in off the right rather than being straight as a winger. But obviously on that left side, as you say, you've got Gesson, you've got Jacob Ramsey, you've got John McGinn, who all are naturally going to be playing inside a bit more anyway. Ramsey's not a winger. Ramsey's not going to go down the line. He's more cutting inside. So I think if we play Marlon, something has to give on the left. If you play Bailey, obviously you're going to have someone off the left. Potentially it could be Marlon. As we've said, maybe Marlon's the one who shifts onto the left. There's a lot of decisions to make. I'm just glad I'm not Unai Emery in this position. But it's a good headache to have.
Coming on to the next point now, because I think this leads really well into it, is Evan Gesson. Obviously, we signed from Nice, around 30 million euros, I believe it is, 22 million pounds is what is being reported online. I don't know bags about him. From what I've seen on videos, he can play anywhere across the forward areas. He can play as a striker. He can play pretty much anywhere. But the position which I see him playing, and just from what I've read online, I think he's going to play as a right winger. That's where I see him. I see him being the natural replacement for Bailey, but he plays a little bit more inside, a bit more like an inside forward, which gives us another option, to be fair. And also, the way I look at it, we've seen in pre-season Matty Cash playing very, very high. And if you've got someone like Evan Gesson who likes to come inside, that is going to give Matty Cash all the room in the world on that right wing. And I think them two could really spark up a good relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point, actually, that I hadn't really thought about. And it's brought another player into my mind who I'll mention in a second. But I think, I like to say, it's a massive headache for Emery to have, but it's a good headache to have. Again, someone we've mentioned already, Jimo Aloba. How does he fit into the team? Because, again, he's one of those who he's been playing off the left in pre-season, but, again, he's someone who plays all across that sort of 10 role of the right attacking midfielder, centre attacking midfielder, and left attacking midfielder. You've mentioned Cash there. Obviously, another player who I do want to mention who really impressed me this pre-season is Tristan Rowe. I don't think Tristan Rowe is going to be a first-teamer, personally. I think that game against Villarreal, he was absolutely superb defensively. The covering was unbelievable. He's rapid. I think he's only 17 himself, I believe, or 18. So he's got bags of potential. I think we could see him go on loan to the Championship. But as you say, that sort of thing of, it looks like that's how Villa want to play this year, with our right back pushing forward, because again, Tristan Rowe was doing that a bit more. Andres Garcia is another one who we've not seen much of through injury. When he comes in, he likes to go forward as well. So I do think that potentially we could be looking at Gesson. But I think if that's the way we want to play, I can see Marlon starting the games and Gesson coming on as that impact player.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Marlon's looked at off the left. If we play quite narrow, this is just my thought, where my head's at. Gesson on the right, Marlon on the left, quite central as inside forwards. Rogers central through them, and then obviously Watkins up top. And then obviously your wing backs getting high. Obviously, then you'd have to have Boubacar Kamara tucking in to make it a defensive free. But genuinely, I think that could work quite well, to be honest with you, and I'd be very interested to see that materialise. Either way, I'm really, really intrigued to see how Unai Emery sets the team up for, which is lovely. Coming on to it, our next topic, Newcastle United this weekend at Villa Park. We play against the Mighty Mags. Where's your head at for the game?
To be honest with you, it's a nice sort of situation for Villa going into this weekend. Obviously, the whole summer Newcastle have had the transfer issues, they've had the Isak saga, they've had that sort of thing. It looks like Isak's not going to be playing against Villa. That's what sort of reports are going around there, that he's not going to play the first game of the season. If that's the case, obviously it's a massive boost for us. We know that. It's something that we'll have to take advantage of. we've got quite a good record against Newcastle when we do play at home. So obviously, it is that there's always that hostility between us and Newcastle. It's a bit of a sort of, it's a weird sort of rivalry. We've obviously had our stuff in the past. Then there's sort of now where some of the fans try to group together because we're trying to take over that big six, and then on the other hand, it's us against Newcastle trying to take over the big six rather than being together. So it should be an entertaining game. I think from my standpoint, with the whole Isak saga going on and that sort of stuff, it's made me a bit more confident going into it, just knowing that they've got all the background stuff to focus on. I know a lot of the players, it doesn't affect them, but ultimately, if Newcastle go into that game without not just a striker, probably the best striker in Europe or one of, definitely, then that's obviously a massive boost for us.
I think we're going to batter them, I do. I'm not even being like trying to rage bait here, because I highly doubt many Newcastle fans will pick up on this. I genuinely think we're going to go into the game and batter them. For me, I don't get this arrogance from Newcastle fans to think they're going to come to Villa Park and turn us over. Since we've been promoted from the Championship, we've played them 6 times and they've only beat us once. Yes, they did pump us that one game where they did beat us. I think it was 3-0. Correct me if I'm wrong, at Villa Park. 3-1 was it in it? Yeah. Okay, so 3-1. They did turn us over, but ultimately every other game we've beat them, and quite comfortably most games. I just don't get the arrogance of them. I really do think we're going to turn them over. We always get up for it. First game of the season at Villa Park. No Alexander Isak. No striker really, unless they're going to play William Osler up top, which I don't see. I think they'll end up playing probably Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon through the middle, and then Alanga on the right wing. I don't fear that in the slightest. I really don't. I think if we are up for it, which we will be, in the centre of the park, we will absolutely batter them again. I think I've just got no concerns. Really haven't got no concerns. The only area that I'd be remotely worried about if it would have been the goalkeeper situation, but I'm pretty confident with Marco Bizot coming in. He's looked a pretty decent signing, if I'm going to be honest with you, so far. I think with him coming into the net, I'm more than happy with that.
I think, again, the only sort of slight concern for me would be defensively. I think it's probably a game for Mings to come in, potentially, just purely based off the pace factor. I think that's one thing that a lot of Villa fans have sort of spoke about this pre-season, is one place where we have sort of been picked apart, shall we say, has been defensively. But again, another player who we didn't mention actually, who probably deserves a massive mention, Lamar Bogard. He's pre-season as levels above anything we've seen from him before. He was brilliant. I've seen people on Twitter question whether he should start the game against Newcastle. I don't think he will, personally. I don't think it makes sense for him to start over someone like Konza, but that's probably the only concern. But again, like you say, they've not got the striker to sort of put away those chances. Don't get me wrong, Gordon, Harvey Barnes and Alanga obviously no mugs, but it's not their job to put the ball in the net every time. Not like a Isak who's so deadly. So yeah, I mean, Marco Bizot as well, he seems a smart signing. He's someone who the defence automatically feel confident in. It's different compared to Robin Olsen, for example, and obviously we've spoke a couple of times about Joe Gauci, and my personal opinion, I don't think he's ready, and obviously he's gone to Port Vale today on loan, but I wouldn't have felt confident with Joe Gauci playing that game. So someone like Bizot coming in, I think it's a confident Villa team going into it.
I don't fully agree with the Mings starting, and I am a big Tyrone Mings fan defensively. I think with this game, considering they don't have Alexander Isak, I would be starting Pau Torres every single day of the week. I think control of the ball, and in all the pre-season games, any time that bloke's on the pitch, Villa looks so much better in possession. I would be starting him all day long. And as for the Lamar Bogard bit, I have a slight feeling there is potential that he could start at right back.
I could see that, yeah.
Tucking in and making it a back three when Luca Dean's high, that's just... I've got a little feeling. I could be completely wrong. Trying to second guess Unai Emery's, you ain't got a chance, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think from my sort of thing, I think that's probably a good shout. The one thing I'd quite like to see more of, and what we've seen in pre-season, is Kamara playing a bit higher up. We've seen him obviously drop into a back three at times, which he can do, but we've also seen from him pressing high. I mean, we've spoke about this. He's one of the best interceptors, one of the best number sixes in the league. If you watch football, you'll understand what Boubacar Kamara is as a player, and he is an unbelievable player. And we saw it against Villarreal. If he's pressing from the front and winning the ball back higher up, the amount of chances we're getting from that, and obviously, like you say, Watkins is firing at the moment. Buendia's got goals. Rogers was getting goals. Marlon's getting goals. If these players are on the pitch and we're winning the ball higher up, it's going to be deadly.
I think personally it's absolutely imperative that Ian Matson plays against the Langer. I've seen Mason Greenwood, don't like to mention his name, but you've seen him absolutely dust Luca Dean, and it gives me nightmares thinking about Elanga up against him. Obviously, he did. I'm sure he'd done him at Forest for one of the goals when we lost 2-1 there. Elanga got past him on the right wing and then either chipped it in or what. I can't remember, but I distinctly remember Luca Dean taking the piss out of, basically. So as much as I love Luca Dean, I think he's fantastic, and I'm really happy to see he signed a new contract to stay with Aston Villa. I think this game I would have Ian Matson at left back.
And the thing is, as well, is especially if they're going to be starting the game with Trippier at right back, for example, obviously I imagine it'll be Livramento and Lewis Hall as their fullbacks. But again, with Newcastle, you never know. There's always seems to be some sort of injuries and stuff there, and even if it's Livramento's not the quickest player in the world. So Matson, I mean, we saw the goal that Matson scored in the 4-1 against Newcastle. His pace is frightening. And obviously, like you say, if you do get Bogard tucking into that 3, yes, it'd be great having Matson against Elanga, but also Matson going up against a Livramento or a Trippier potentially is frightening as well going forward.
So, Premier League predictions for the season. Where do you want to start?
That's a great question.
Who wins the league for you?
I'm going to sound controversial here. I think Chelsea do.
Oh, bloody hell, that is controversial.
It's one that I've not heard many people shout about, but I just think the signings they've made, the way those sort of players have kicked on, João Pedro's a smart signing. I know a lot of people have said Liverpool. I think, listen, Community Shield's Community Shield. People they treat it as a pre-season game, but they were lucky in that, Liverpool, to be honest, and that's the thing, is it's hard to retain a Premier League. Don't get me wrong, City did it for 4 years, but it's not as easy as City made it look. And I think teams like Chelsea, they've put the money in for a reason, and they've got some good players in there. I don't like Chelsea as a club, but I like what they've done. So that's my controversial one.
I've been with the crowd. I think Liverpool win it. I think it'll be a lot tighter this season. I think the top 4 will be very, very tight this season. I think they'll probably pull away a little bit. I think Chelsea have strengthened very well. Arsenal have strengthened. Man City have strengthened, and Liverpool obviously have strengthened. I think if they get Alexander Isak, it's done and dusted. That would be my one. Player of the season. Who's your player of the season?
It's a tough one. I'm going to stick with my theme of if it is Chelsea win the league. So I'm gonna say Enzo Fernandez, which I know, again, it's a weird one. It's an interesting shout. I think obviously it's likely to be Cole Palmer if Chelsea win the league, but I think Enzo Fernandez does everything so quietly that he's just a quality player. So that's going to be my, again, sort of controversial,
very rogue shout. I have gone for Virgil van Dijk. I know he's had a lot of stick because of the situation in the Community Shield, but means nothing. I think with Liverpool losing, obviously, Trent, looks like Andy Robertson's not going to play much. It's going to be Kirkes, but you would assume they've had a lot of changes to that side. They're going to need stability, and I think he provides you that massively. I would have said Salah, but I think with it being an African Cup of Nations season, I think Virgil van Dijk will be the ever consistent, ever present, and I think he will lead Liverpool to another title. So I've gone for Van Dijk. Young player of the season. I found this one pretty tricky.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I mean, the thing is that this is such a hard one to predict because of how it ended last season. I think I'm not just saying this as a Villa fan being biased. Morgan Rogers definitely should have won it last
He should have had
season.
it.
And we saw obviously he didn't. I'm trying to think who's young enough to actually be sort of competing in it.
Well, Livramento's a shout. I think. I think he's a quality player. Lewis Hall from Newcastle, just two. I don't think from a Villa aspect, I would put any of our boys in there this season.
I'm gonna go
Esteval.
Rogue. Again, I'm gonna go with Adam Wharton.
I did a video on this earlier on my page, and I actually deleted it because it weren't doing very well. And do you know who I said? Adam Wharton.
I just had to look back and see how old he was, but yeah, I'm gonna say Adam Wharton.
Yeah, it's not rogue, mate, at all. He's a potentially world-class centre midfielder. I would absolutely love it if we could pinch him from Crystal Palace, but unfortunately I think that one's going to be a very pricey one to get him out of Crystal Palace when he eventually leaves. Yeah. Right, Corey, top goal scorer. I'll give you mine. So I am going to go for Erling Haaland. I think Manchester City are definitely going to have improved on what we saw last season. It was hard not to, realistically. They were very poor. Towards the back end of last season, I thought they were very good. And I think Haaland is going to improve. He's going to get more service. He's going to come back with a vengeance. I think he's going to score an absolute shed ton.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. I think it is probably a Haaland season. I'm going to slightly just go against the curve just because, obviously, it'd be a bit boring if we both said the same person. So if he signs for Liverpool, I think it'll be Alexander Isak. If he doesn't, I'm going to back our boy and say Ollie Watkins for Golden Boot. As we've said, just the way he's going into the season, it's frightening. It's a Watkins we've not seen before. He's taking 1 out of 1 chances in games. He's seems scary, and it's good to see. So yeah,
we won't mention the misses against St. Louis. Anyway, moving on. Was it the one when he rounded the keeper and he could put it into an empty net and he's put it wide? Anyway, it does, and I'm sure Erling Haaland will miss a load of chances like that this season. He does, and that's a sign of a good striker if they're getting the chances. So, who do you think is going to be Villa's player of the season?
I'm going to go Morgan Rogers.
I'm going to go Ollie Watkins.
Solid. I actually do want to throw Emi Martinez into there as well. I think he's had an unbelievable pre-season, to be fair to him, especially with everything that's been going on. So if he can pull off the saves he's been making in pre-season, we'll be happy seeing.
Right, what's your rogue shout for the season?
I'm going to say Victor Gyökeres scores under 10 non-penalty goals.
Bloody hell, that's a big statement. I'm going to go for Newcastle United finishing the bottom half. I think if they lose Alexander Isak, a couple of injuries, I think, especially with Champions League football, I think they'll struggle.
I think, from my standpoint, that's not to say I think Victor Gyökeres is a bad player, by the way. I just think it's his first season sort of backing. I know everyone says, oh, he's done it in England, he's done it in the Championship. There's players we've seen who've done it in the Championship who can't step up to that Premier League level, and then there's other players like Morgan Rogers who were bang average in the Championship and then came up and have taken the Premier League by storm. I think, personally, next season will have a brilliant season for Arsenal. I just don't think this season will be his season.
Probably lead to Mikel Arteta being sacked then in that case.
I do think he'll be sacked, to be honest.
Fingers crossed. Right, on that note, I think we can tie it up there. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment on the video as well. It really helps the channel grow, and don't forget to drop a subscribe. One last thing, guys, as always, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.